Yo, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. As you saw from the thumbnail and the title, today I'm bringing you quite a tactical drive here in Lime Rock Park in the Formula V. What I mean by that is I think there were times where I could have made a move and been a bit more aggressive, but I decided to play it cool, decided to keep my head, and it paid dividends in the end. And we do have a little bit of a controversial moment on the final lap, so stay tuned for that until the end of the video. Here's the starting grid, P11 right at the back. So let's see what kind of a difference we can make off the start. We need a good one heading into T1. Let's see if we can get some places. We have Parkhurst to our left, Gfuel right in front of us, and here we go for 5 red lights around Lime Rock Park. Here we go, and we get a very slow start, extremely pedestrian from us, and we're not gaining any places on Gfuel in front of us. So let's see if there's any carnage heading into T1, as there always seems to be here on the cold tires of the V. And as we turn into T1, as you can see on the inside of the track, someone's on the grass, and he cuts across the track and takes out an unsuspected driver. That is unbelievable, and Parkhurst is on the radio. That must have been him who got hit inadvertently because of the incident. We're going to have to go and take a look at that replay as 4 cars are flashing yellow on the top left of the screen. So let's jump on board with the replay, and we start the replay on board with Jean Petrovic, and that is Osh in the Trojan livery on the outside, and it looks like Jean Petrovic just gets sheep scared and he loses the car into T1, and that is unbelievable. That is Parkhurst who gets taken out. We jump on board with Parkhurst POV, and you see there is nothing he can do. There is literally no way he could have avoided that. So that is just really bad luck there for Parkhurst. You've got a feel for him. But we're jumping back onto the live action as we head into the right-hander and the uphill section of this track, and we are now behind Gfuel, who we started behind in the race. So he has been unscathed through that incident, so that is good for him as we try and make our way and close the gap around the corner heading to the downhill part of the circuit. And the gap is 0.6 seconds, so we should be able to get some nice slipstream down the home straight, Samposi straight that is. So let's see, the gap is now 0.5, so definitely in contention for some slipstream off Gfuel here. So let's see what happens. Are we going to be closing down the straight? And it doesn't look like it. And if you can see on the horizon, there's some weaving, so maybe there's potential for another lap 2 crash into T1. Let's see what happens, but it looks like the cars up ahead, actually I take that back, I was going to say they are unscathed, but that's 3 cars going wide. No wrecks, but they all go wide onto the grass. So that is us into P5. Unbelievable scenes here on the second lap of the race, and that is Gfuel. He has a bit of a moment going down into the S's. So let's see, we should be able to capitalize, but before we see that, let's go back and see what happened to the 3 cars. Focus on the ones at the top of the screen on the outside of the corner. As you can see, they all just decide to go wide. It's like they're playing follow the leader. They all just go wide, and that is unbelievable. The pink car, the black car, and the white and purple just all losing it, and that's a lot of places for them down. So let's see what happens now as we jump on board back behind Gfuel. Now that gap is 0.3, so it's definitely slipstream time here. Are we going to try and make a move up the hill? Let's see what happens. We've seen so many wrecks here at this part of the track, so are we going to be ballsy and go for it? But it looks like we're not going to. As I mentioned at the start of this video, we decided to play tactical for a long part of this race, and it pays off in the end. But sometimes that's all you have to do. You have to live to fight another day. You lose the battle, but you win the war. And as you can see, the top 3 cars in this grid are having a slalom race down the straight, trying to avoid each other's slipstreams, but we're getting a really good run on Gfuel here. So let's see what happens. Are we going to feed it around the outside? And it doesn't look like it, as we brake rather hard into turn 1, and we are going to concede the position, not trying to get into any wrecks here in such an early stage of the race. But we are on the gearbox of Gfuel, and he cuts us off and closes the corner, so that's good racing from him. But I don't know if we were going to make it stick even if he hadn't defended so hardly, so maybe that turns out to be for the better. But here we are going through the S's section, heading into the uphill, and it looks like we're gaining on Gfuel again. He is very much at risk from us right now. He's not being able to break the slipstream, so let's see what happens here. We're getting very close again, and it looks like we're going to have to lift, otherwise we might make contact here heading into the downhill section of the track onto Samposi straight. So we are again lifting and coasting, as they say in Formula 1, to save and preserve the tires. But obviously in this scenario we're doing it just to avoid crashes. And look at Gfuel, he is trying to gain the slipstream as much as possible to the first 3 cars, and we just decide we're not going to be bothered by that. We're going to stick to the outside line and not bother trying to get into the slipstream. But let's see what happens here. It looks like there's a bit of a wide turn from Borisovic there on the outside in the dark red livery. So he lost some time there heading into T1, and that allows Gfuel and myself to catch up to the pack. So it's very much a 5-horse race now, and the leaders in the first 3 positions, they have lost their lead from Gfuel and myself. So as you can see, the gap to P2 is now 0.6, so very much in contention here for the top spot of this Grand Prix. And as we make our way up the hill, look at how much more speed we have than Viljoen. Are we going to try and feed it round the inside? And it doesn't look like it. We're just going to tuck into his gearbox and live to fight another day and see what we can do down the straight with more of a slipstream effect. And looking back at the footage, I'm actually quite proud of myself, and I think it shows my growth as a driver. I think starting out, I would have just wanted to get every place possible in every single corner, but you know, as I've matured and as I've gained experience in the V and in iRacing, I've learned that sometimes it's about being more efficient, not necessarily being the more aggressive driver. And now as we head into T1, let's see what happens here. Any crashes to be had, but it doesn't look like it, and that's Viljoen going very wide, and we have the inside line, so that should be the move done, but somehow he gets much better drive, even though he had the less optimal line there heading into the S's. So I don't know how that's managed to happen, and it's kind of bad because I think we should have had that position. We were definitely further ahead heading into the corner, so I don't know what happened there, but it looks like we've actually lost a lot of time, and the gap to Viljoen is now half a second, where it was I think 0.2 or 0.3 before. So we need to try and make up some time here heading up the hill, but it looks like Viljoen is challenging Borisovic, and it looks like he's actually made the pass. So I think Borisovic has actually had a really bad run up the hill, and it looks like he's going to have to concede to P4, and that is Viljoen heading into P3. So good job from him. That is good racecraft there, but let's see what happens down the straight. Are they going to be dodging and weaving like we've seen them? And yes, it looks like they are definitely doing that, but again, as I keep blabbering on about, we're not going to be bothered by that. We're not going to follow their lead, and we're just going to stick to the outside of the track, take it easy, and see what happens. Live to fight another day. And there we go. That is exactly why I didn't want to get involved in that. That is another 3-car wreck heading into T1, almost identical to the incident we saw on lap 1. And yeah, I'm not saying I told you so, but I kind of told you so. You have to avoid T1 incidents around Lime Rock. Drivers drift off, they lose control of the drift in the V, and that's how incidents happen. Let's jump on board here, and this is Soler in the orange car. He takes the inside line, but I think he just goes wide, and yeah, that is just not what you want to see. It looks to be rather a racing incident, but let's see. This is the car behind who gets caught up in the incident, and it looks like the outside car turns in rather abruptly, but I think you're just going to have to pin that down to a racing incident. So that is the top 3 runners of this race out, and it looks like, if you can look at the top right minimap, it is just me and Borisovic left in this race in contention for the Grand Prix win. So let's see what's going to happen and how this unfolds, because we haven't been racing Borisovic yet. He's been too far up the field. So let's see what kind of pace we can get on him and see if we can overtake him down Samposi straight. And it looks like we're tucking in nicely with the slipstream, and as you can see, the delta is increasing, so that means we are definitely in the slipstream effect. So he pulls out wide and takes a very defensive line, and we're not gonna fall for that, and we're not gonna bother to tuck in behind him. We do have enough slipstream. It looks like we're just ahead as we check our right view, and it looks like we're going a bit wide into T1, and we can't get too close to the apex because of course Borisovic is up there, and we don't want to wreck the car, so we take it rather wide, but we are getting the inside line for the second part of the S's, and that is going to allow us to gain the lead of the Grand Prix. So that is good racing there, good racecraft, and again, being rather tactical, trying not to cause an incident by going too close to the apex and just feeding it around the outside into turn 1. So that is very tactical again, and again, I'm very proud of myself for learning how to drive the car and being more of a safe and efficient driver. So yeah, heading into the final section of the track, it looks like Borisovic is rather close, and he should have the slipstream around here. And it looks like this race is going to be very much a case of us overtaking, then him overtaking the following lap, and then so on. Because as I mentioned, around here, and especially in the V, the slipstream effect is just unbelievable. So if you're in P1, you're really a sitting duck if the driver is within a second or within half a second of you, as Borisovic is. So he's going to take the inside line. So this is almost a replica of the last lap, but he is going to be much further ahead into the corner this time. So we don't need to be as careful, and we can clip the apex much more nicely, as you should around here. And he's going rather slow, and we get forced off. So that is actually our first incident point of the race, but he's going very, very slowly around these corners. So we have to kind of follow suit and let off the throttle much more than we would have liked to there, and it looks like that's allowed him to gain a bit of a gap, not too much, maybe 4 or 5 car lengths, so we should still be able to get the slipstream up the hill. So let's see what happens. The gap is closing ever so slightly, and we should have a good run into the final corner. He goes a bit wide onto the grass, so that should scrub a bit of speed off of Borisovic's exit here. Let's see what happens down Samposi straight. We are very, very close. 0.1 is the gap now, and we should make an easy move, but we actually actually almost lose the car. We take too much of the curbing on the inside, and as I tried to say I'm tactical, that was a bit of a rash move, so it looks like old habits are getting the better of me here. And look at this. This was never on. I don't know why I went for this move, and we are very, very fortunate the car didn't unsettle and potentially go into a spin. As you can see from his rear right suspension, look at that. There was never any space there. So looking back on this, that was not my proudest moment there, and he is going to dart to the right as we jump back on to the live racing footage. So this is just the identical of every single lap we've seen for the past 2 laps, and we are feeding it round the outside, and we have to be wary of him coming up our inside here. But as we know, if you take the outside into turn 1, you will have the inside line for turn 2, so it's almost a benefit to have that outside line for the first turn, because you can get a really good drive into the S's and then into the uphill section. So the gap is 0.1, and as you can see, Borisovic is keeping on our tail, so he's always putting the pressure on, and it's always kind of wary. Like when you're looking into the rear view mirror from time to time and you see the driver right behind you, it gets into your head, and a lot of the times it forces a mistake. So it's very smart from his perspective and his race pace if he's keeping on my gearbox, because I will always see him in the rear view and even the side mirrors, which is a bit closer than it actually is in real life. So yeah, just a lot of mind games being played here, and as he is pulling over to the right hand side of the track, as he always does down the straight, he should have enough pace here to pull ahead into turn 1. And it looks like I'm showing the same clip of every start of every lap here, because it's the same identical thing every single time, me on the outside, him on the inside. But it looks like he actually wasn't that far ahead this time, so we should get a better run into turn 2, and we're not having to worry about him on the outside, so we should get a better run. And look at that, we're able to clip the apex very nicely, and look at the delta, it's at 0.26, but as we take the right hand, as you can see, it's going back down. So unfortunately that's not the best exit into the right-hander for us, and we're losing time as Borisovic again is in our gearbox here. I can literally feel him on the back of me, and this is not great for us, as we're probably going to get overtaken into Samposi Straight as we have for the past few laps. But let's see, he's not that close actually heading into the fast right-hander, so let's see what happens down the downhill section. The gap is 0.2, so let's see what happens. I think previous laps it was 0.1, but now he's closing in. The slipstream is finally taking effect, and he's going to dip to the inside as he always does, but this time we're going to go and park ourselves a bit more on the inside of the track, maybe to put on more of a defensive stance and maybe to unsettle his rhythm. So let's see what happens. We check our right, and he's very close up our inside, so we're going to take it a bit wide into turn 1 to give him the rube, as we should. But look at that, he is going on to the inside, and he's much further ahead on this time, so we're not even going to be able to defend onto the inside of the left-hander. So that is not great from us. As you can see, the delta, we are 5/10ths down of our best lap, and that gap is increasing, so that is not great from us. But hopefully it is our turn to finally have the slipstream on Borisovic for this part of the track, which he has had for the past few laps. So let's see what happens. As you can see, we're so much faster than him, and it really shows just how strong the draft is, especially in the V. So let's see what happens into the fast right-hander. The gap is 0.3, so it's the biggest it's been for a while, but he takes a bit too much curb, and I think that's going to scrub a bit of his speed as he heads down the hill. So now let's see what happens. We need the draft to pull in for us here. So let's see what, is he going to pull to the right-hand side of the track? Yes, he is, to break the slipstream, but I think unfortunately that has scrubbed some speed, but he comes back onto the track. He's weaving. I don't like that. I was kind of weary at this point of the race. I don't think you should be making double moves like that. You should make one move down the straight, and that is it. But let's see what happens. I think this is a little bit of foreshadowing for what's to come on the final lap, so keep that in mind as we are on lap 12. So this is the final lap of the race. I know it's gone by very quickly here, so let's see what happens. Borisovic is ahead of us, and it looks like he is getting a bit angsty. He really wants this race win, as so do I, so I'm going to be pushing. And as you can see, the delta of my fastest lap is going down, and that is what you want to be seeing as you approach the final 2 corners of this track. So we need a really good run here, but unfortunately, I don't know why, but the gap is getting bigger, and he darts to the right, darts to the left, but that is unfortunately given him a bit of a bad exit, so we should be in the run here. Let's see what happens as we round the final corner. This is do or die, the final Samposi Straight of this lap, and he's on the left side, but he actually darts, and we make contact, and we're forced to brake so we don't ruin our race on the final lap. And unfortunately, that is going to mean we come in P2. And as you're about to hear on the radio, I was fuming in the heat of the moment after we just had a hard-fought battle. I was fuming, so listen up here as I get on the mic.
Mate, I hope you know you're a really dirty driver for that.
And yeah, as you can see, I was just really upset. But we're going to jump into a replay and break down what just happened on the final straight of the race. And looking back at it, I think that this was a fine move. It was just one move darting across the track. I don't know. You are allowed to move, but I don't know. It just seemed very intentional. And at the time, it was really infuriating. I think he knew I had the draft and he just didn't really want to give up the win. And he just cut across me. And we make contact, as you saw on screen. And I don't know, man. It just seems very aggressive. And I don't know what to say. I don't think it's a dirty move, but at the same time, I think he knew I would have the draft, I would have the speed, so let me know what you think. And now we're looking at it from his POV. I think he sees me in his right rear view mirror, and he just decides to cut me off. And look at the contact. I don't know. I think that that is a bit of a controversial move. Let me know in the comments down below if you think that's dirty from him. I think we had a really good race, you know, back and forth, but that ending didn't sit with me well during the race. But now that I've looked back on it, I've calmed down, and I think he just defended his position. It was the last straight of the race. So yeah, let me know what you think. And it was a good race. We ended up P2, and it was a good, close, hard-fought battle. So yeah, hope you did enjoy this video. Let me know what you think of that last racing incident down there in the straight, and let me know if I'm at fault, if he's at fault. I really want to learn and get to know more about racing and, you know, all that stuff. So yeah, hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.